Hi, good afternoon, Christy. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to start this off the same way we've started our other curriculum talks. We have an article on the screen, and it's the same article we've been using, and it's just begging the question, kind of asking, well, without external exams, state exams, for example, we use MAP, without this school year, how do we know we're doing okay as a school? How do we know the students are learning? I think the title here says assessing schools' academic quality, but I mean, that's an open question, and I'm curious what you think, Christy. How do you think we can tell we're doing an okay job without our MAP scores?
Well, I think like what we're doing to know if it's okay is our students learning. So there's many ways to see growth in students and student learning that is removed from a formal MAP assessment.
What's a good example of what we're doing that helps us see that? What do you think?
So, well, in the elementary, we have lots of pre and post assessment unit assessments. We have them for reading, writing, spelling inventory, and math. So we can see where the student is pre-unit and then use some of that data, to help us inform our instruction and have students self-assess and then see how they did on the post and see where the growth has been.
Tell us more about that. Like, how do we norm that so we know it's just not, I'm feeling generous this week and everybody gets an A? What's the norming process for that?
Right, so we have a grade level. I'm going to use a reading one, for example. We have a grade 3, 4, and 5 reading assessment that's new to Teachers College and new to us. And first, the students take the assessment. There's 4 questions on it. And for grade 3, for example, it's character traits, predicting, synthesis, and analyzing author's craft. So the students take the assessment, give their answers, and then we come together as a team. And we look at their answers against a learning progression and see what the criteria for success is and which answers meet the criteria for success and which are approaching and which students need more support.
How detailed are those criteria for success? Is it super detailed or there's some room for professional judgment in there?
I would say a little bit of both. This is different than what, like, I would say a rubric would be, where most rubrics I see like a 4 would or a 3 would be meeting expectations most of the time, and then some of the time, and then none of the time, which those don't help teachers or students know like a learning path. So the learning progressions that we use give like a grade 2 answer, a grade 3 answer, a grade 4 answer. So for example, if we had character traits, and if we asked the student what was the character traits of this person in the story, if they just said, oh, he's sad, well, we would know that that's a feeling and not a character trait. So that would score them at a grade 2. If they said he's loyal, and if they give us text evidence, he's loyal because in the story, he always stood by his friend, then we would give them a grade 3 score on that. And then if they went deeper in saying what the motivation of the character was and referenced several parts of the text and talked about complicated character structures of different character traits, then they would score a 4. So we can really see that growth through the grade levels and growth. It really gives a good path of, I'm here, but what do I need to do to score better?
So it sounds like it's in between. It's not, a perfect right or wrong answer, but it's not up to the whim of the teachers for that school year either. There are some pretty good examples or exemplars of what a good answer is going to look like for that grade level. How important is, I think you said the teachers get together to moderate or look at their answers together to make sure they're on the same page, because sometimes they might be even reading the example answer differently. So how important is that get together meeting?
It's it's extremely important. And we do have really deep conversations in those meetings, and we don't always agree. And sometimes we're grade levels apart on where we're scoring that. But when we analyze the question, analyze the students' answers, and really think about what it's asking and what standard it's addressing, we will come to an agreement on what we would accept as success.
Now, do you think that agreement could change over the years, or let's say AISJ's grade 3 agreement in that conversation of how we're interpreting the correct answer, should that change every school year, or does that become a norm for a grade 3 at AISJ? Like, what if you had a brand new grade 3 team every year? I'm not saying that happens, but imagine having a brand new grade 3 team every year, and each year the new grade 3 team looks at it completely different. Should there be a standard response that's kind of carried over each year and becomes the school's norm?
I think that's what's fair to students. If our expectation is changing every year, that's not fair to students. We need to be able to say that if they received a 3 in reading this year, it's the same as the kids coming up that would receive a 3 in reading.
So I'm going to plug Atlas here, but that's why I like Atlas, because you can put in exemplars where a team could have that conversation, and they could put it in Atlas and say, this is our exemplar for what we see based on the information we have available this school year to be the quality answer. And then a new team, if you don't have that person staying on the team, they can then reference that, so you continue the norms.
Yeah,
but now,
exactly.
This is different than the reading assessment that we had before.
So we also do a benchmark of a BAS assessment, which we are trying to find what level the student's reading at. What is the independent level of the student, of where they read the passage independently and they answer questions from the text on comprehension and looking for fluency. And that will give us, oh, I have a 5th grader, but they're reading 6th grade level, or I have a 5th grader and they're reading and comprehending at a 3rd grade level, and here's the things I need to do to help them improve. This assessment's a little different than it's a grade level specific reading passage, and it's actually read to the students. So it's not about decoding, it's actually about what can you do with this text. So it's a little different in those areas.
Do you find that you get wildly different results sometimes for one student between the two, and therefore it's just a bad day for the kid and it's circumstantial, or they match up pretty well?
It differ, like we have the pre and the post, right? The pre can be like from extremes of a student that retained and they are scoring really high, to a student that's maybe new to our school that hasn't had a pre-assessment on information. And within the students, though, we're not sure on this assessment because we have just started giving it. So we are looking for data to see, how they're going to perform over time.
Now the system of assessment that we've invested in and that's being used, they have recommended norms. How are we doing in your estimation in terms of our most recent results? Are we on track? Are we behind because of the pandemic, or are we doing well?
I think on this assessment in particular, it's a new assessment for us. It's a different way of assessing reading for us and the students. They're doing it over Zoom. They're doing it typing their answers on a Google form, and it's a pandemic and they haven't been into school, and they don't have like the reminders around the room that we would have of like, this is, some examples of answers that would be success criteria. So having all of that, taking as a grain of salt, we're all over the board, right? We have students doing extremely well, and we have students meeting benchmarks, and we have some students that are below benchmarks, but we have that every year.
So, I think that's the key point there that you said we have that every year. So how would you compare us this year to other years then?
Our BAS assessments seem to be pretty well on track. We're not doing that assessment, but we're doing like running records to see, are they on grade level? Are they below grade level? They seem to be doing fairly about the same. But on this assessment, we have just started, so we really don't have any other data to compare it to.
That's great. I mean, it sounds like initially it's looking like we're on track.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put up on the screen. I just saw this the other day, and it said, early results are showing that thanks to the teachers, kids are doing okay. Now this is NWEA, so that's MAP. So I mean, that comes from the very small samples of schools that are still trying to find a way to get their MAP in. And the early MAP results are showing that, at least for reading, if you read the fine print, it's reading more than math, schools are doing A-okay. But I like that the moral to the story there, it says thanks to teachers. And I think when you talk about the teachers getting together and talking about it together, so they're all on the same page with the available information, then they're all on the same page with the available student work. They're really putting their best foot forward and doing the best they can. And I think approaching that in a systemic way, not just randomly, and in an earnest way with good intention, it's really the best we can do. And I kind of have this optimistic, hopeful point of view that when good people try their best, they'll get good results. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's going to be based on the circumstance, and you can bat around the bush for a long time to find good. But I mean, as best as possible per the circumstances, I would think.
Yeah, every teacher is putting forth a tremendous effort, and students are at home and they're with parents that are supporting them. And we've always wanted more parent involvement also, right? So we're getting it now. And like you said, when we're all like pushing in the same direction and we're all positive and assuming that we're doing the best we can, then good things will happen.
I love that you bring up the parents too, because often the studies will say that the biggest impact at home is going to be the parent involvement, positive parent involvement. So yeah, that's a silver lining in a cloud. And so really appreciate that. Okay, well, I'm going to sign off now, but Christy, thank you for talking to us. And your expertise is always appreciated.
Thank you very much. Nice
Thank you
talking
so
to you.
much. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Well, bye-bye.